Hark, lo and behold, dark times had descended from the heavens, as the souls of departed had wailed and returned unto the abode of men from yon other world to proclaim these tidings. The horrors of their plight knoweth no end, for they are burdened with the great curse which shall befall all that live, and full calamities shall swiftly befall both of them and their progeny. Therefore no one strive diligently to live in a manner that befit the dwellers above. This is the doorway, which is our starting point to our long submerge into the realm of Pestilence. An old, moldy, broken, rusty cellar door which leads into the dark unknown, to the endless maze of this universe. I am not a historian myself, so my knowledge is limited with the events of the Great Plague. I studied and researched a lot about the subject though. The days of the Black Death are so in the past and forgotten in the game's universe that anything can be told as truth or fact because no one lived to confirm or care. So, the Pestilence world take a different path in the days of the Great Mortality around 1350. The events unfold the same manner till that time. History, as we think we know it today, are the same. However, the turning point was when the deaths of millions not just caused a mundane horror and misery, but had a huge ripple in the metaphysical realm. The fabric of reality has torn and cracked from the vast painful emotions, anger and grief when people died in masses. They blame their gods, each people respectively, or they look upon the events as punishment for their sins. This whole extinction made the separating border layers between the planes of being thinner and hold. The symbolic pillars which hold these planes in their place became broken from these forces, and the upper world and the underworld came much more closer to the mortal realm. There are many locations where these are overlapped each other, creating great disturbances. Formerly, enormous effort needed to penetrate even mentally these borders, but after the Black Death, it became much more easier. In some cases, people accidentally could enter these layers without even noticing it at first time. The Black Death was ravaging and destroyed the majority of the Eurasian population. The society had collapsed, public order was no more, and the stagnating civilization by then vanished within dark months. Hunger, looting, violence, rape, and any kind of misdeed take over the still habited places. This is the end of the world, a tax collector wrote in Siena. It was corpses packed like lasagna in a municipal plague pits, collection cars winding through early morning streets to pick up the previous day's dead. Husbands abandoning dying wives, and parents abandoning dying children for the fear of contagion, and knots of people crouch over latrines and sewers, inhaling the noxious fumes in hopes of inoculating themselves against the plague. It was dusty roads packed with refugees, ghost ships crewed by corpses, and feral child running wild in a deserted mountain village. Pack of wild dogs pawed the newly dug graves of the plague deads. For a moment, in the middle of the 14th century, millions of people across Eurasia began to contemplate the end of the civilization, and with that, perhaps the end of the human race. This is a quote from John Kelly's book of Great Mortality. Well, if this would be not enough, there were another event unfolding. Later in this series, I will describe a few origin theory for this happening. What is observationally happened for the living is that a new kind of pine tree appearance in all corners of the earth. A fast-growing, grim-looking, dark tree which grew unnaturally fast. The trees grow higher than the rest of the mundane siblings. These pine trees are wild beings, which will be described in high detail in the later episodes. The people tried to cut them out, but whenever they did, the trees started to bleed some yellowish substance, similar to resin. All those who contacted it became very sick and shortly after died horrible deaths in various symptoms. The rumor has spread, and the people tried to burn those growing forests all around the affected lands. The results were almost the same, because the trees started to sweat more and the fire just created a smoke, which became the later known miasma, plague fog. Those are mostly wind-driven death fog, which devour the nearby camps and villages and leave corpses only when retreated back to the forest. The name the forest was quickly given and fearfully whispered between the survivors who ran away from the growing pine trees when those appeared on the horizon. The miasma smoke from the greatest forest fires rise up to the skies and blur it forever with a never-vanishing cloud cover which started to become a new unnatural habit of this damned world. So a constant gloom descended from the heavens, like all the light is abandoned the earth. It seemed that the plague was just a vanguard for the forest to the end of all things. The people were in great caravans, fleeing from all directions, growing trees, seemingly only one way remained clear to pass. Eventually they arrived at the point where foreign faces with unrecognizable tongues have met, but they were uncommonly terrified of the forest, the name they gave to the thing. Many have tried to get through the forest, and only just a few has returned in terrible condition, telling tales of the nightmares which lingers in the darkness of the pine trees. The rumor spread like wildfire throughout the territory where the forest did shepherd the remnant sons and daughters of various tribes and kingdoms. In the end, the forest grew into a wall-like phenomena in every direction, then stopped. Until next time, beware the roots.